Welcome into another edition of New Track Record Podcast from the WELT studios. Caleb Hatch, Justin Kinney, here to recap the BitNile.com Grand Prix of Portland. Team Penske and Will Power finally in the win column for the first time this season. Plus, we'll discuss the latest on Mexico City. Interesting article that came out today as we record Thursday afternoon, August 14th. And dive into the other latest and greatest news in the world of IndyCar. First off, hi, Justin.
Hello, Mr. Hatch. How are we doing?
Try not to melt.
It is still hot as the dickens around here in Indiana.
Very hot.
They keep telling us it's coming to an end soon. Soon can't get here soon enough.
No. And I'm going to the State Fair this weekend. And
now, there's a lot of shade at the State Fair, right? A lot of buildings.
Yeah, there are buildings, but the buildings often aren't air conditioned.
That's true.
I mean,
a lot of asphalt concrete around the complex.
Yeah. It's going to be hot. I enjoy the State Fair. Like, what's your carnival/fair food go-to?
My fare is either an elephant ear or a tenderloin.
Yeah, I'm an elephant ear guy. I'm not a funnel cake guy.
Me neither.
And then outside of that, just whatever weird creation, I'll do some research.
Whatever's fried this week, this year,
thing.
It could be fried Snickers, wasn't it fried corn on the cob or something a couple years ago? Or maybe that was in Iowa.
I'm sure they've had it. That doesn't actually sound good.
No.
I mean, I've had plenty of, fried whatever. I've never actually tried the fried butter. That's like the weirdest concept.
Yeah, I don't. That's just like injecting it into your veins.
But deep fried Oreo, quite good. Deep fried Twinkies, Snickers, whatever, Three Musketeer, whatever, chocolate bar, Reese's Cup, strawberries, all those things, quite good.
All the things. Now, we had our town fair in Huntington, Indiana a couple months ago, and I noticed for the first time that with elephant ears, you could get a dip of strawberry. I don't need any flavoring with my elephant ear.
No, but that does sound good.
It does, but elephant ear is perfect the way it is for me. So I don't know if I need anything to dip it in.
From the festival or fair to the, what's it called? The festival corner, right?
Yes, the festival corner.
At Portland International Raceway. Will Power gets the win. And before we get into our three things, I think the biggest takeaway from the weekend, yes, Alex Palou is your IndyCar champion. Finally, we don't have to hear nonsense about the championship
Thank
for
God.
The final two races. I'm relieved at that. So relieved.
Yeah, and it was, I know it's a big deal, but they treated it even on Sunday like it was the last race and everything.
They didn't even have the Astor Cup there.
Did they, right? They didn't even have it there.
Apparently not.
Oops. Guess it missed its flight. But, yeah, it was very anticlimactic to me, which I expected. We've been saying for months that this championship was over.
The Indy 500, it was over.
Yeah, and sure enough, it's over with two races to go. I was really surprised at how good I felt for Will Power. And maybe it was because, they show Liz and it always reminds you of what that family has been through and what they're going through now. Obviously lesser than health issues for Liz, but it's a very emotional time when you don't know what your future is on track. And I thought this was not just a regular drive for a win where you were clearly the fastest car and you drove away from everybody. Will Power could not put a single wheel wrong for the better part of 30 laps to win this race. McLaren was clearly the fastest team, I felt, at Portland. Lundgaard qualified on pole, but started seventh, Pato O'Ward was, what did he start? He started on pole.
Started
so
on
it was
pole.
Effectively a 1-2 qualifying effort for McLaren. And Lundgaard was on Will Power's butt for the better part of 25 to 30 laps. And I thought, if anything, this should open the eyes, if there's any doubt in Team Penske, that Will Power still is as good enough to earn and deserve that ride, is because he could not make a single mistake over the course of that final 25, 30 laps, and he didn't, and he won. So I felt really good for Will Power, really good for Liz, and hopefully it works out, because I think this drive really, really drew attention to Will Power still being a very, very effective IndyCar driver. I'm not going to say he's still at the top of his game at 44 years old, but he's clearly the best Penske driver this year. And I think it makes all the sense in the world to have him in a seat in 2025. So hopefully this win maybe could clinch it for Will Power to return.
I hope. And as we get to our three things, I think our first takeaway is Will Power, right?
Yes.
I think we mutually share that, and you've kind of already echoed kind of some of your takeaways. I think my thing with Power is, you said it. He's been the most consistent Penske driver. He won 3 races last year, as he alluded to. He's got to win this year. He is their best option week in and week out. And yes, some of it's been weird stuff happening to the other 2 cars, getting taken out, or technical gremlins, whatever, but he has been the most consistent option. But the thing that stuck out to me was what he said in the post-race, talking about his time at Penske and everything with that. That the comments, as I pull it up, that stuck out, it sounds like a guy who is on their way to another team. Because he said on the Fox broadcast, I've had a great career with Verizon and Penske. So I've had. And I get that you could take that either way.
Right.
But it almost sounds like he said, hey, it's been a good run. He's still lobbying to keep his seat. But the fact that this has lingered on all season, I understand there have been changes within the team, right? Tim Cindric got fired. Ron Rzuski got fired. Who's the other one? Kyle Moyer got fired as well from Penske. So there's been organizational changes at the top, and he probably would have gone to Cindric directly because he was the IndyCar and Team Penske president also for a long time in that role. But now he's dealing with Roger Penske directly. Roger obviously has a million things going on. He's not running the day-to-day operations of the team. And the fact that he's not free of his contract till after Nashville, and that he doesn't have an inkling either way, that or he's hiding it quite well, which I don't think he's capable
I don't think
of
so.
doing. That's not a shot at him. I just think how he is, he wears his emotions on his sleeve, so to speak. He wouldn't be capable of hiding it that well. I think he's off to somewhere else. And I think there's maybe another option that we haven't talked about that we can get to a bit later on, but it doesn't sound like a guy who's returning to Penske next year. I hope I'm wrong, because I think it's absurd, but that's just the vibe I'm getting.
I still think he comes back. Earlier in the weekend, they asked him, and he was non-committal one way or the other, says he hasn't been talked to, doesn't know. But I also think after he won, you become more reflective of your career at a place, particularly when you have the day that Will Power had on Sunday. And he very well may be done at Penske after 2 more races. I think it would be a colossal mistake, but it remains to be seen what's going to happen. I feel like what could be his last time in victory lane for Team Penske after so many wins with Team Penske, you start reminiscing a little bit. You start thinking about all the great times in victory lane for that team and with Verizon. So that's how I took the post-race interview with Will Power, is maybe more of a reflective attitude, and maybe this could be it. Not definitely is it, but hopefully we find out sooner rather than later. But that's something we said a couple months ago, let alone what Will Power has been thinking over the last several months.
I think it's Penske. I don't know if there's really another ride that's even close to that. I don't think...
not open, that's for sure.
Yeah, not that's open. I mean, Marcus Armstrong is technically a free agent, but between the funding he brings and his results, I don't think they're making a change. I just think there's no surefire seat that he can seamlessly move into. Now, there was an interesting couple tidbits on Rahal being an option. One, Devlin DeFrancesco's out of the leader circle at the moment, and that's obviously not a good sign for his future there. And Graham Rahal had some comments saying, we welcome Will into the team, essentially, and obviously so. But then there was a clause apparently in DeFrancesco's contract that's essentially, if he doesn't make the leader circle, then the team somehow can keep the sponsors, but DeFrancesco's out. And Nathan Brown of the IndyStar.com had this. So I thought it was a fascinating thing, and this is kind of like a Zach Veach situation, if you remember that several years ago. Remember, Veach brought the sponsor onto the team, and then Veach was out after, 2019? And then obviously they kept Gainbridge. I mean, that didn't go anywhere, / Group 1001, and established other drivers. So that's a possible option. I mean, the way he phrases it, unique terms, should they trigger unique terms in this multi-year deal with Devin DeFrancesco? It could lead to the sides parting ways after just one season. Multiple sources in the paddock believe there are mechanisms, too, that could hold on to much-needed funding for the number 30 that could make continuing to fund the ride in DeFrancesco's absence easier than originally believed. If that's the case, then yes. I mean, that the fact that Power would have a turnkey seat, a team that has shown pace in road course qualifying in particular, obviously needs work on street courses and definitely on ovals. That seems to be the best full-time option that could be available.
It does, but let me present you another possibility that's not being talked about.
Okay. And I have one other that I didn't get to.
Will Power will turn 45 years old at St. Pete next year, March 1. Is Will Power wanting to go race for a midfield team?
I think we're on the same page here.
I think maybe what we saw with Will Power in Victory Lane on Sunday wasn't reflective just with his run with Team Penske. But could this be a guy that says, if I'm done at Penske, I'm done as a full-time IndyCar driver?
I feel the same way. If it's not going to another team, and it's certainly not going to be as good of an option as Penske, despite Penske's struggles this season, they're still one of the best two teams in the series. I'm not ready to boost McLaren or Andretti over Penske. Obviously, Ganassi being the other top team. I think that's a viable option that people aren't talking about, because you could also interpret his I've had a good career with Penske and Verizon. You could also interpret that as a guy who is, I'm stepping away full time after this.
I mean, just I've had a good career.
Yes.
Just ending it there. This is a guy that's run 287 races. Obviously, he holds the record with 71 poles, 45 wins.
Now, does that include the pole at Surfers Paradise in 2008, the exhibition race? Because I don't think it does.
I don't think it does. Now, if you include Champ Car, it's 77 poles, dating back to 2000 all the way back to 2005. I think this is a guy, and Liz Power is always emotional with Will's wins. It just felt a little different this time, and maybe I'm reading too much into it. I think this is a driver and a family that I think they will be done if he's done at Penske. Why? What's the benefit for Will Power to go to Ray Hall and run mid-pack? Because people say, well, look what Takuma Sato does at Indy with Ray Hall. Well, that's one race. And maybe Will Power, that's his future for the next couple of years, is I'm just going to do Indy. And maybe it's an extra car with Penske. Who knows? I don't think Power, who's been at the pinnacle of the sport, won championships, won the Indianapolis 500, has the most poles in history in the sport, has won 47 races between Champ Car and IndyCar. I don't think this is a guy that needs to keep racing. I think he would be content ending his full-time career with one of the most prolific teams in the sport.
This is a situation of retiring essentially on top. I get it. He's not winning the championship, but he's won a race. He's been competitive. It's not been a fall off, right? I mean, he had a tough year in 21, but then wins the championship the year after. I mean, that was kind of the only blip. This year it's been tough for the whole team, but he's been the bright spot. And that came before the win. He's been the bright spot.
And, 23, didn't get a win that season, finished 7th in the championship. People thought, well, maybe that's Will Power. This is the Will Power going forward, and he's dropping off. Then he finishes 4th in the championship with the 3 wins that you talked about last year. Gets this first win of the season here at Portland. I don't think this is a guy that is looking at his late 40s is, I have to hold on in this series, and I need to go race for Ray Hall or Carpenter or whatever to keep my career going. He's achieved everything he set out to do. I just don't feel like Will Power, unless it's an offer that absolutely wows him financially, I just don't see him as a guy that is going to stick around just to stick around.
Which, to be fair, other teams, if they can put the package together, would probably offer competitive, if not more money for Will Power, because Penske is usually not paying guys top of the line. Like, it's certainly not paying Andretti level or McLaren level, at least in the case of Pato Award. But there could be competitive offers out there. But I agree. It feels like Penske or bust in terms of full-time future for Will Power in IndyCar.
And Will Power doesn't have to go very back into his career very long to remember a season where he didn't win, 2023. That's what he's staring at if he goes to another team. Because none of the top 2, obviously, if he's done with Penske, Ganassi doesn't have a spot. He's not going to either Andretti or McLaren. So the best he can possibly do in the paddock is what? Carpenter?
Shank,
Shank, I guess.
Theory,
yeah,
but again,
in theory, but there's not a spot open.
I don't see them dropping Marcus Armstrong.
That's the best ride that would be available. And Shank, if the Shank car came up for grabs, maybe that would sway Will Power. I just don't think it does come open. So you're competing for, top 15s with Ray Hall and Carpenter and teams like that. I mean, he doesn't want to do that.
The one wild card is if Verizon goes with Will Power to another team.
But I don't even know if that would still keep Will Power in. Even if he goes to Ed Carpenter Racing, for example, with a ton of money from Verizon, he's still not competing for wins. All due respect to Ed Carpenter Racing, because they're not. So, yeah, to me right now, if Will Power is not retained by Team Penske, I don't think he's in the series full time anymore. He has nothing more left to prove.
I tend to agree with you on that, and I think that's so. The focus is on, is it Malukas or Power, and then where would Power go? But I think the focus really should be on what's Will Power's future in IndyCar. Not because he's not good enough, obviously, that's not the case, but does he want to continue away from Penske? And I think we're in agreement that that's maybe,
I don't know if he wants
a reality that could be. All right, moving forward on our recap of Portland, I guess it's time for my number 2.
Yes.
And I want to highlight one of your favorite drivers.
Me?
Yeah, Graham Rahal.
Hey, 4th place finish. Let's party.
Drove through the field. Best finish of the year. Didn't start well, which was a surprise because they had pace. I mean, Foster got knocked back and then drove back through the field after he got spun. They had pace. Devlin DeFrancesco, top 12 qualifier. So it was a surprise he didn't qualify in the top 12, let alone Fast 6. But to drive through the field, they made it work on the tire strategy. That was the key for him and several other drivers. But it was a good run, a good bounce back, and we'll see. The ovals loom, so who knows what this team can do. But one thing I think is clear. In terms of one-lap qualifying pace on a road course, they are up there with the best of the best in this series. In terms of race pace,
they got a lot to be desired.
There's a lot of work to do, and of course on ovals, that's a whole separate thing. But I thought this was a good drive from him. He was steady, led laps, just through pit cycles, and made the tire strategy work. So where they got the tire strategy wrong, the Indy GP in a race that he probably should have won had they gotten that tire strategy right. On the flip side, they got it right here, and he's able to drive through the field and finish 4th.
Well, any type of good momentum towards the end of the season can really propel you into the off season. And you look at what this team has done, and Louis Foster in the teens, and I want to say it was teens too for Devlin DeFrancesco, or late teens for this race, is this team knows that this offseason is extremely pivotal for them, as it seems like it's been every offseason recently. But if Graham Rahal can get this thing pointed in the right direction and find some consistency, it would very much help this team, because right now you're looking at at least one of their cars is not finishing in the leader's circle. The other one is in the leader's circle strictly because Prema isn't eligible. So you just kind of wonder if what this means. Basically, this team has been so uncompetitive that I feel like sometimes we just praise, and maybe not us, but other people praise RLL anytime they have even an average weekend. Is like, oh, look, RLL, but it's so infrequent. Now, if we can start stringing some top 10s together, Graham Rahal 2 top 10s in the last 3 races. You have to go back a while.
He doesn't even have that at any other point in the season.
Not this season. Last year you had an 8th at Iowa, 10th at Toronto, just once back-to-back top 10s. 2023, same thing, just one back-to-back top 10. 2022, he had 2 back-to-back top 10s. Here's my thing is the late season push is nice for Graham Rahal, but when this is the first time that you're putting together 2 top 10s in a course of 3 races all season, it's tough to take you seriously until you start doing it more. It's a good drive. Look, I'm not taking it away from him, but I'm also just not going to sit here and praise Graham Rahal and Rahal Letterman Lanigan any time they're not a complete disaster on a weekend, which I feel like sometimes even media members do that with RLL. Like, oh, they look competent. Let's do a story on them.
He was good on the race day, and their team in terms of qualifying pace was good. But it's getting consistent results on race day that's been the issue, despite them having the pace. This was, one of the few times Graham didn't make it to the Fast Six for a road and street course or road course qualifying.
Well, the fact that he started all the way back 20-something this
22nd.
race? When his 2 teammates qualified pretty decent in the mid-teens. Now, Devlin DeFrancesco had at least 2 penalties for blocking that I remember in this race, or else he may have finished higher than 18th. But by and large, a serviceable weekend for Rahal Letterman Lanigan. But they still have a tremendous amount of development to go.
And I think they have Jay Fry obviously on board. They're shifting people around in terms of engineering and other leadership roles. I think the driver lineup will look different. I think we'll see 2 of the 3 return. I don't think Devlin DeFrancesco will be back next year. That to me felt like he brought the budget and the terms were favorable for Rahal in case they didn't make leader circle. Based on what Nathan Brown reported, that's very favorable, so that sets him up to hire someone instead of chasing a driver bringing a big check for 2026. All right, what's your second takeaway?
Well, let's talk Christian Rasmussen versus Connor Daly in the tit-for-tat battle we had on track early in this race. It was all happened on lap 13. Rasmussen made the initial bad move, basically pushing Connor Daly off the track on an outside move. Connor Daly then tried to spin out Christian Rasmussen, hit him from behind, didn't succeed, and then eventually Rasmussen runs him off again, and a heavy impact for Connor Daly into the tires. There was questions on why there wasn't a penalty on Christian Rasmussen. To me, I felt like the back and forth was kind of canceled. There wasn't just one party to blame because
they were both to blame.
Correct. Connor Daly clearly tried to spin and wreck Christian Rasmussen. Yes, Rasmussen did it first, but this is not a playground fight. This is not like, well, he started it type thing, right? So I didn't feel like there was a penalty that needed to be issued. In fact, I kind of appreciate these instances in which the drivers are put in control to either retaliate or bury their feeling. More emotion is good in IndyCar. I've had this discussion countless times about the lack of emotion in confrontation. I like this. And to me, I feel like when IndyCar allows these drivers to go back and forth, and you're like, oh, you got to protect them from themselves sometimes, let him go back and forth. And eventually Daly ended up in the wall, and he had a prime opportunity to speak his mind in the interview. Didn't really. Then he took to Twitter, which if I want to see IndyCar fights, I want to see them on pit lane, not on socials. But I felt like this was and with Christian Rasmussen, is he the new Santino Ferrucci in terms of pissing people off?
He seems to be.
We've heard various times this year about guys not appreciating how he races them close, and then Connor Daly is the most recent example. I like how Christian Rasmussen drives. It rubs people the wrong way. It can cause confrontations. It also can bite him in the butt as well. But this was the latest example to me that I think Christian Rasmussen is a worthy addition into this series. He can drive. He's shown improvement every year, and he's a bit of a polarizing figure as well, as we witnessed with Connor Daly on Sunday.
Couple things. One, a lot of people vehemently disagree with you on this issue.
That they wanted a penalty?
Yeah. I mean, Twitter was ablaze of people upset.
Look, Connor Daly's well liked by fans,
yes,
right? And when you see one of the car drivers that you like go heavy into the tire barrier, I get it. But at the same time, if Connor Daly had spun out and wrecked Christian Rasmussen, of which he tried to do, then it's Connor Daly serving the penalty. It was just that Rasmussen succeeded where Daly failed in terms of taking the other out.
So I think there should have been a penalty in this case. I don't think I'm as upset as a lot of people were, but I think both drivers should have some sort of penalty.
At the very least.
And that could be announced at Milwaukee, right? We've seen them do this with penalties, like Kiffin Simpson got a penalty and then it wasn't announced until the following race a couple weeks later. I just think both drivers, that kind of driving style should not be tolerated in terms of trying to take each other out deliberately, which both were trying to do in this situation.
Yeah.
That's the issue I have. Unfortunately, I mean, watching it in terms of the replay that Fox had, you really couldn't see it that well in terms of, yes, they got side by side in a corner, but I mean, there was contact before, and there was contact with Rasmussen and Herta, right, as well?
Correct.
In this race. So I think with Rasmussen, I agree with you. I think he's a guy that makes the midfield exciting. It's one of those things where, okay, you complain about it in terms of his driving style, but without it,
people are whining about drivers without any passion.
Correct. Correct. So that's the part.
Ways,
yes,
folks.
That's the part that I find funny. It's the same with Ferrucci. It's like, okay, you may still hold a grudge against everything that happened, before he was an IndyCar. That's understandable. But for most of us, we're focused on what he's doing now, and you may like his driving style, you may hate his driving style and everything that goes with it. But I think he's a guy who, because of his past, that's where people go with Ferrucci. Now with Rasmussen, it's not nearly that. That's not the case. It's more that he's a driver that was labeled as making crazy moves, and I couldn't trust him on track when he was a rookie at the Indy 500 a couple years ago. And so that's who he is, according to all the other drivers. And I think as a fan watching, he's provided the excitement factor in several races here in the second half of the season.
He absolutely has. And I feel like this was an instance of either, to your point, both of them need penalized or neither of them need penalized.
And race control doesn't call hardly anything, so what were you expecting?
Yeah, right. I don't know what people were there.
The Dixon spinning Newgarden, they had to call because it was so obvious, but otherwise, they pretty much let them race, which I think fans actually, they like the idea of letting drivers race, but when it's put into practice, we don't like it. And look, myself included. I like the idea of not calling tons of penalties, but when it's put into practice, it's aggravating. Watching a race saying, isn't that a penalty? What's a penalty? I don't know what avoidable contact is anymore, because that's where we're at. And a lot of people would have said Rasmussen should have had an avoidable contact penalty, and that did not come.
No, and I agree with it not coming out because of what Kate Daly did earlier in the lap. The last thing we want IndyCar to become is Formula One, in the sense that anytime there is a pass with any contact, no matter how small.
And since they're driving boats on track, there's always
contact. The issue of penalty comes up, either from the driver cockpit or from race controller. Every time two cars touch in Formula One, they're reviewing it. And I don't want IndyCar to become that. I don't want any time a driver is a little aggressive in passing you or attempting a pass that people cry penalty. Now, I understand that in this situation, what both drivers did was pretty egregious and obvious. However, it is a road I don't want to go down, in the sense that, okay, if this is a penalty, then the next time that something close to this happens, there's a penalty. You set the precedent, and all of a sudden we're just penalizing everybody anytime there's contact.
I don't want it to turn to F1 where guys are saying that was my corner.
Correct. Or my tires were up at his side pods, or I don't want we're examining replays of where tires were in the corner and where the apex of the corner is. Like that bores me to no end. So I would rather race control be less strict than more strict. Should they be calling more penalties? Probably. Would I rather have less penalties than more penalties? Yes.
But also, both drivers probably deserve some sort of penalty, and we'll see what
at the very
comes
least
out of
a talking to, which
yes.
we don't know if happened or not. But
yes, I would hope there's at least a reprimand or something, and who knows if we get public
quote
knowledge
unquote
of that.
Probation.
Something.
But no, I had no problem with it not being a penalty. But I understand people vocal about it because Connor Daly has a lot of fans.
And I think that's a way bigger factor than people are willing to admit to themselves in this situation.
All right, you're number 3.
My number 3, Callum Ilott and Prema. They've done it again. Another good result for that team. He has just been on a tear. Tied Graham Rahal with most positions gained, plus 18 on the day. Started 24th, finished 6th. Now back-to-back for Callum Ilott. 6th place finishes, 3 straight top 10s. After we were saying, wow, Schwartzman's putting together the results. Where's Callum Ilott? He's found his groove here late in the season.
He absolutely has. A guy that we've said before, we expected him to hit the ground running a little bit quicker, but at the same time, it was still a very, very new team, obviously. And so as Prema figured things out, maybe Schwartzman was a little ahead of the game because of various reasons, obviously, but he was just able to pick it up and figure it out a little bit quicker. Now, you look at what Ilott has done in the latter half of the season, starting at places like Gateway, going 18th, 15th, 13th, then at 23rd and 21st before 8th, 6th, and 6th, the last 3 races. And he is racing this car off the bubble of the leader circle. Now, I know Prema doesn't get money, but it's also would be very, very impressive if one of their cars didn't finish south of the leader circle, hypothetically, and even more impressive if both of them finished out, hypothetically. One is already out as of right now. The 83 isn't very far off. So while we know they're not going to get the money, the fact that they could still finish outside of the leader circle with both of their cars would be really, really impressive. But the fact that Callum Ilott has done what he's done has put them in a comfortable position with his drive.
Yeah, I've been impressed, especially because it didn't feel like he arrived till late on the scene. I don't know. This tells me that they got the pit stops right, which is something that new teams are going to struggle with. They got the strategy right, same thing. And the driver ran a clean race and avoided trouble, which is hard to do at Portland.
Yeah, I mean, Graham Rahal with 4 pit stops and also Callum Ilott 4 pit stops. So they made the strategy work with 4 pit stops. the only two in the top 12 with more than 3 pit stops.
They ducked early to get off primaries, right? And then
like the Scott Dixon move that he usually does. But yeah, I've been very impressed the latter half of the season with Callum Ilott, who was one of the talking points in the first half of the season going, where is Callum Ilott?
Prema is a team that, again, we've said this before. This is not a Carlin situation. Yes, Schwartzman's a rookie, but obviously very talented. We saw that with his Indy 500 pole. Ilott is very experienced in the series. Yes, Carlin, when they came on, they had Max Chilton and Charlie Kimball. They were experienced IndyCar drivers, but that was a team that I'd heard where they had guys who hadn't even practiced, at speed pit stops,
right?
Because they're moving up from lights at the time. A lot of the crew guys. So this is a team is a lot more competent in its first season. Yes, the results may not look that way when you look at it on paper, but they've been way more impressive, especially when you factor in the Michael Cannon drama that went down before the season even started and what they've been able to accomplish.
5 top 10 results this season between the two drivers, and of course the pole at the Indianapolis 500. If you had told me before the season started, this is what Prema is going to do in their first year, I'm like, that's incredible.
I wouldn't have believed you. No one would have believed the Indy 500
No.
pole. I still don't believe that really happened.
Yeah, right. That is at the top of the list, of course, but Ilott with 3 consecutive top 10s, his first 3 top 10s of the season, and then top 10s for Schwartzman, a 10th at, where was he at? Gateway, and then the 9th at Iowa. The fact that they were both ovals, too, with top 10s for Robert Schwartzman is very impressive. So,
all new tracks for him, mind you.
And ovals completely foreign to Robert Schwartzman.
Yes.
So as we've focused more and more on the race at the top of the standings and Rookie of the Year and stuff like that, maybe we've kind of forgotten a little bit about Prema, even though Schwartzman is in the battle with Foster for Rookie of the Year. But what they have done this year has been very, very impressive.
All right, your final takeaway from Portland.
What would you say if I said Christian Lundgaard is a championship contender in 2026?
Oh, I believe it.
What he has done at McLaren, who for the entirety of their tenure in IndyCar has been consistently competitive with just one driver, Pato O'Ward. But Christian Lundgaard, with his second place finish at Portland, his third second place of the year, now has 6 podiums on the season, 3 seconds and 3 thirds. He is 4th in the championship. When he has not finished in the top 10, it's been rough for him, particularly Road America and Iowa 1. But I look at Christian Lundgaard, and could this, heading into 2026, be the first time we look at McLaren and say they have multiple bullets in the chamber, so to speak, every weekend, which I don't think we've ever said about McLaren.
Yeah, I mean, Pato O'Ward's always been there. When they had Rosenquist, I mean, he got poles, right? But in terms of winning races, it never felt like he was in contention. Alexander Rossi, again, ran well at Indy, had some good results, but it wasn't consistent. And with Lundgaard, this is a guy who was wicked fast on road courses. He's learning ovals. And look, before this year's Indy 500, I would have said this guy's never going to figure out ovals. But he had a 7th place finish at Indy, was solid, and we're seeing him put together some oval results as well. I mean, that's obviously not a strength of his, but it was new to him coming into the series. And I think in terms of outside the big two, he and Pato are probably 1A and 1B of championship contenders for 2026.
You mentioned Felix Rosenquist. In 3 years with McLaren, he had 3 podiums. Christian Lundgaard has 3 podiums in the last 4 races.
That's a wild stat
for McLaren.
What's the pole total? Rosenquist had a few poles.
How many poles did Felix Rosenquist have? 6 total? Now, I don't know if all of those came.
He had some with Ganassi.
Yeah, a couple with Ganassi. So
obviously, he's had some with Shank, too.
Yeah, so maybe 3 or 4 with But you can have your polls. I want results, and Christian Lundgaard is putting up the results. Zach Brown saying the new shop that they are close to opening, is it the old Andretti shop?
Yes,
is the final piece. I think that takes into consideration, maybe for the first time since McLaren came into the series, that they're very, very happy with their lineup. I mean, Pato's Pato. I think Lundgaard has proven this year that he's a worthy sidekick to Pato and can challenge anybody on track. And I think Nolan Siegel is still a wait and see as a young driver. I think Nolan Siegel will be expected to make a considerable jump next season, but all of a sudden, you look at what Lundgaard was able to do, and I was as impressed with him on Sunday as I would have been if he had won the race in terms of how he raced Alex Palou for second and third in that battle. And eventually Palou just kind of lost it and had to regain control. I mean, Lundgaard raced him as well as anybody. And I think, if anything, that clinched in my mind. You look at Christian Lundgaard as, okay, this is a driver that's ready to compete for a championship, ready to compete and win multiple races each season. And for the first time for McLaren heading into next season, I think they confidently have two guys on the team that they have faith in pulling those things off.
Which I think goes to show you the development of this team. Zach Brown kind of turning it into what he wants, Tony Kanaan as well, leading that in that new role. Look, you go back to early this year, and we were kind of miffed when it was just thrown into a story that Tony Kanaan was going to be, the head of the IndyCar operation. We were like, wait, what? Has this been reported anywhere? And, oh, yeah, it was reported there, and we didn't know, but it's worked out well. TBA and Nolan Siegel, but I think he has all of next year to prove himself in that seat.
Yes, he absolutely does. Now, next year will be pivotal for him, but I also think that due to the success of the top two, he'll get another year. But just very continuously being impressed with Christian Lundgaard and what he has done this season in his first year at McLaren. Usually we say, oh, you need a year, to really settle in, blah, blah, blah. And we looked at what he had did at Ray Hall, and you're like, okay, yeah, he won Toronto, but it's tough to judge drivers at midfield teams. I think he was doing the apex of what you could do at Ray Hall, and that sometimes goes unappreciated. I mean, 8th place for Ray Hall in 2023 was phenomenal, 11th place last year, but now he's really come into his own with one of the power teams. And still, I mean, you look at Lundgaard and still just 24 years old.
That's the other thing, is they have a young driver lineup that if Nolan Siegel pans out, I mean, you have a driver lineup that you could feel good about for the next 5 to 10 years.
Could you imagine McLaren just not making moves for year after year after year? Because that has not been McLaren since it came into IndyCar. So I think they're really pleased with two of the three. I think Siegel is now year 2, you really need to make a jump. I'm not saying he needs to be in a title chase either, but 3 guys in the top 10 or 12 of the standings should be the expectation next year, with Lundgaard and O'Ward being there close to the top.
For sure. That wraps up our takeaways from Portland. And the crowd, it was better than I would have expected considering the brutal heat. RV spots were sold out. I read OregonLive.com had that, and the promoter was happy. Yes, it's not to where you want that to be, but a lot of people talking to us just on social media who attended said, yeah, this feels like the best crowd since they returned in 2018, or best since 2019. I've seen that sentiment echoed elsewhere.
Just didn't see, and there were not a lot of crowd shots other than the drones.
And look, at the start of the race is the only time worth taking a crowd shot, because after that people are getting shade because it was so brutally hot. But the fact that the RV sites were sold out and the promoter's happy, Green Savory Promotions, which they also promote St. Pete, promote and own Mid-Ohio, and also promote Toronto as well. If they're happy, that's a good sign. And this feels like one of those events where it could be dropped, but I don't have that feeling anymore. I feel confident about Portland returning. Not that I had a lot of doubts going in, but this solidified that I think Portland's back in 2026.
There always seems to be a lot of negativity around Portland, and we've kind of fueled that by saying, oh, it doesn't feel like an event, but the drivers have been vocal about not really enjoying it. I thought it raced well. I think it has raced well. If they can make a slow growth and keep getting people coming back and more people each year, then it should be kept. It's not like there's a long line of venues that are fighting over spots on the IndyCar calendar. So if there's any type of momentum with IndyCar racing anywhere, particular Portland, then you need to keep going back. I'd like the event to become bigger, but it was evidenced by the size of the crowd from people that were there saying it has been the best in quite some time. So let's just keep that positive momentum going into 2026.
It feels like pretty much every race on the schedule, and this is not factual, but just based on the information we have, outside of Iowa, of course, has remained at or above of what they were attendance-wise in 2024, which is, I think, a huge step forward. I think for IndyCar to be more consistent in attendance, and we'll see what happens with Milwaukee and Nashville coming up, but this has been a step forward outside of Iowa being the black eye on the schedule for at-track attendance, which I think has been trending positively for the most part for a few years now.
I agree. I just wish we could feel as confident about the TV ratings.
Yes, and let's get to the TV ratings as well. Over 700,000. Again, that seems to be the baseline number. 708,000 viewers, up 86% from 380,000 last year, but that was on USA Network. Here's the positive. Peaked at 945,000 viewers from 5:30 to 5:44 Eastern, which would have been the end of the race, obviously. You had the TV issue with the first 31 minutes on FS1 in mini markets in Fort Wayne. It was a Bears preseason game. IndyCar on Fox averaging 1.416 million viewers, up 28% over last year and up 13% versus last year's viewers for IndyCar non-Indy 500 race coverage. That's the number you really hope is higher by season's end.
I know a lot of people had issues with Live Golf superseding IndyCar. Like we're not privy to the fine print of these contracts and what takes precedent. But for us locally, as you mentioned, this was the cluster for us in Northeast Indiana. So our Fox affiliate is basically like an empty building. It's not a thriving Fox affiliate, let's just say that, by any means. The race was listed. The Chicago Bears preseason game was not listed on the guide. And I followed this closely because my family's Bears fans and my son wanted to watch the preseason game and blacked out on NFL Network. I said, sorry, but it's not on anywhere. Then I turned the TV on later, and one of the suggested things to watch was the Bears preseason game on Fox. I was like, wait a second. So I turned it over to that. Still listed as the Grand Prix of Portland, by the way, in the guide. I tried to explain that to me. But then when the game went over, the Bears game went over, there were no alerts or anything on the screen to tell people, hey, turn over to FS1 to catch the start of the IndyCar race. There was nothing. And the Bears game ended up going to well past 4 o'clock, about 4:10 before it switched over. Communication was lax. I can't speak for any other affiliate. I actually recorded the race on our YouTube TV, Caleb, and I had the Fox 59 feed.
Yeah.
And that was directly from Live, I think, and joined coverage on lap 6 is when I started. Because I didn't have the FS1 recorded.
I didn't watch live because I was out of town, but I watched Sunday night the FS1 replay, and just it had already been going, so I just went back to the beginning and then caught up. I understand people are upset about golf and finishing, and look, Liv did terrible numbers. Like it was like 360,000 or something. It was bad. Basically, IndyCar nearly doubled Liv. Liv has no TV audience. There's no TV market, and ironically, Liv's going to be in Indianapolis this weekend, actually in my hometown, playing in Westfield at one of the golf courses there. I just don't think it's a draw. It's a unique concept. It's being propped up by a lot of money from the Saudis, but I just don't think it's a draw on TV.
It's got some big names, too, in Live Golf.
It does, because they can pay a lot of money for that. But the reality is, look, you got to finish that event, and then you get to IndyCar. I think the part that I'm most upset about is between having a pre-race buffer, and I get that it's only 20 or so minutes, like that should be enough. Or they could, they push back the start of the race a little bit because they had to do that for that women's Euro that went to penalty kicks. But we didn't miss the start of the IndyCar race in that scenario. So, look, I get it. People are upset, and it's kind of laughable because IndyCar got that big investment from Fox just 2 weeks ago,
and gets bigger ratings than Live Golf. Can't say that very often.
You got to finish the other event, and IndyCar's not in a spot where they're going to just bump Live Golf for IndyCar pre-race.
Not at all.
And maybe that's more the goal to get to that point. I mean, NASCAR would bump whatever for pre-race, and we saw that with NBC, and people got upset, and rightfully so. Maybe that's another benchmark is we don't deal with these things, but I get it. People were upset about it. Because I didn't watch live, I'm not as upset.
Well, here's my thing, too. Now, do we know that Fox pays Liv for the rights, or does Liv pay Fox to be on Fox?
Liv might pay Fox.
Because if Liv is paying Fox...
Because that's how the deal was with the CW, when Liv was on the CW.
Then that changes things, okay? Because everybody was like, ratings. Look, Liv is flush with cash, obviously, because they're attached to the Saudis. If Liv is paying... I don't know, $30 million a year to broadcast golf events on Fox, that I'm sorry, that's going to supersede IndyCar. So I don't know exactly what the terms are between Liv and Fox, but that's something that I haven't seen mentioned that should be considered. Yes, IndyCar gets the higher ratings, but is Liv cutting a considerable check to Fox for them to broadcast Live? I don't know. I'm not that in touch with my Live Golf.
Nor am I. Either way, I'm not worried about this happening for Milwaukee or Nashville. And I guess that's all I have to say about that.
It's not like we missed a lot either.
No.
And you missed Ferrucci spinning.
You missed the start. You missed first handful of laps. Most people have access to FS1. If not, I think Fox posted the start.
Yeah. I mean, you missed one lap effectively.
On YouTube or wherever. So,
or one lap of green at least.
It's not great. But again, IndyCar gets better ratings. These things will take care of themselves.
Yeah.
That's the reality. All right. If you agree or disagree with us, and I'm sure you do, whether it's Rasmussen Daily, golf, whatever, we'd love for you to interact with us. You can always find us on social media. IndyCar Podcast, the handle on Twitter /X, also on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. Just search for New Track Record on there. newtrackrecordpodcast@gmail.com is the email address. Send us your questions, comments, rants, what have you. We have one we'll get to in a bit.
Oh, we got a rant coming up, huh?
I don't know if it's necessarily a rant, but yes, we have something coming up. Also, we have... you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/newtrackrecord. Thanks to Xavier and others for their support. And as always, download and listen on your favorite podcasting platform, whether that is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. So let's get to the mailbag, and we'll start with the email. And this is a follow-up from last week. If you remember, Josh sent the email asking, is Rossi washed? And he said, Rossi is not washed.
Oh, he didn't like our...
We have our answer. Rossi is not washed. It's obvious that he listens to your podcast. Have that nice drive on Sunday. He's motivated by Justin's hate. With the,
I think there are plenty of drivers motivated by that.
With a fun emoji. How about that command to start engines? I loved it.
I missed it. Did anybody see it?
I missed it because, you know me, I don't watch pre-race.
I know, but that's like...
It was very... It was, I think, the BitNile guy. So okay. It was very brand specific.
And you know me, I rate to you at least, yes, I rate the commands.
Flyover and command. Yes,
which we don't get flyovers now. or at least they're not broadcast. I mean, the only flyover we've seen is the 500.
I think so. I think there was maybe one at Iowa. I'm not sure.
I think they still do them at places. They're just not broadcast.
Yeah. Either way, we didn't mention Rossi, but his first top 5 finish of the year. So it ends the streak of not having a top 5, which would have been the first season in his career without a top 5. But obviously, yes, good result for him. That team, look, we're looking to 2026 for that team in terms of breaking out.
Yeah. Rossi and Rahal in a insane battle over the final 2 races for 15th place in the standings. Riveting. They're going to have to find some storylines to talk about. We can't talk about the championship anymore.
Rinus VeeKay is still ahead and well ahead.
Considerably ahead.
Just keep that in mind, throwing that out there. Okay, let's get into the other nuggets on the mailbag. We have a few things to get to. A lot of people sending thanks for having Adam Stern on last week. A couple of replies on that. People obviously love what Adam has to say, and it's always good to have Adam on and talk about things that are going on. We had, let's see if I can scroll.
We brought him in on for a couple of years now. We've had Adam, so he's a friend of the pod and is always bringing some great information.
Yes. The note, and I guess I'll save this for tweets of the week. There's some good notes on the crash. We had P. Gaynor 14 send us this. It apparently there's an EJ Viso car painted outside of Sitco in Flat Rock, Michigan.
Well, that's random.
Joel Sebastianelli, who's done stuff for IndyCar Radio, found that, posted it. But thanks to Philip for finding that for us.
It's just sitting outside the gas station?
Yeah, it's like a mural.
Oh, I thought it was an actual car.
Sorry. No, a mural.
Okay. Gotcha.
In terms of Adam Stern, Tyler Wong 65 said the GOAT. Always great to have Adam on. Historic Hot Lap said great segment with Adam Stern. These guest spots are always nice to listen to. And Poet Shevchenko, the right guy to have on the show for this news. Thank you all for the positive words. Again, always love having Adam on, and makes us feel good when people A, listen, and B, enjoy the interviews. So that's good. We'll take it. Elsewhere in mailbag stuff, there really wasn't a lot to get to this week in terms of people sending us some items.
Did we have a Rate the Race?
Oh, yes, that's right. Almost forgot about Rate the Race. Let's get into it. How would you rate the BitNile.com Grand Prix of Portland?
I may get a interesting reaction from you. I'm going to do an 8.
Wow.
For that race. Yeah, see, I knew, because I always shortchange races.
So I'm going 7.5. The end was great.
Yes.
You had some intrigue in the beginning. The middle was rather dull. But yeah, 7.5. It was a good finish, but as always, I'm not going to overstate a good finish for what otherwise was just a fine race. It wasn't bad.
Yeah. I thought
it was fine.
It had a good mix of yellows and strategy, and I felt like what we've lacked this year, and by and large the last couple years, is excitement towards the end of a race with guys battling for the win. And we effectively got that for 25, 30 laps in this race. And we've talked about it before earlier in the pod about Will Power couldn't make a single mistake, or Lundgaard was going to get him, or for a certain period of time, Palou when he was in second. I thought there was intrigue all the way to the final lap and to the checkers. And we haven't often said that about IndyCar races in recent memory.
So the Rate the Race total, 7.989. So you're pretty much on the
Wow. So I even ranked the race higher than the average.
Yes.
I don't know if that's ever
I don't think that's ever happened. That's why I was stunned when you went with an 8. But either way, good numbers. The other comments I will get to are in regards to the Mexico City story, which will go more detail. But essentially, Nathan Brown, IndyStar.com, had a story out, and I'd heard these rumors for a bit, but Mexico City not as done of a deal as we were told. And we'll get to that in news and notes after the mailbag shortly. But Tommy the Treat 01 said, as soon as Escato lost his next seat, I knew this race was sunk. Thermal Club, here we come. Well, they're not going back to Thermal. Thermal announced that. But yes, that is a factor that I'll get into. Also, PF56T2 on Twitter said, seems they need to get away from Liberty, get back to Monterey. Liberty Media now with a controlling interest in Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, moving to, I believe, 75% ownership. So that's another factor in all of this.
Yes.
And the other thing is the company that manages the track, Mexican subsidiary of Live Nation, which we know Live Nation. It's the same thing as Ticketmaster, which is, of course, owned by Liberty Media. That from Lynn_IndyCar. He said, I think it's maybe time to be the big fish and race in northern Mexico and Pato's hometown of Monterey, which, again, other people said Monterey. Look, I love the idea of a street race in Monterey, but the infrastructure is simply not there. And the reality is this is a turnkey option for Penske Entertainment, at least so we thought. And we'll get into it. In fact, let's shift
let's dabble into
to news and notes, because this is kind of the other lead story here. This went from being, Mark Miles saying it's basically a done deal to, okay, well, what's the holdup here? There are a lot of things at play, and one that I think is not being talked about in the delay for this. So I'm going to start with that factor first, and then we'll get into what Nathan Brown had to say in his story on IndyStar.com. The Penske Entertainment folks are very confident that IndyCar is going to be in Mexico City in 2026. And this is not mentioned in the article, but a factor that I think is way more important, and we had it at the time, is that Ricardo Escoto, however you say it, is the Mexican billboard guy who is going to promote the race. His son, same namesake, was in the series formerly known as Indy Lights. Earlier this year, got booted from Andretti Cape. Micah D'Orlando's in that seat, I believe, for several races, if not the rest of the season. I think that is a bigger factor in this than what people are letting on. Now, I think Marshall Pruitt said it was something about just a disagreement between the team and
financials, apparently. Yeah.
But if you're telling me that you can't fund a lights ride, right, for a season, then how are you as IndyCar going to trust this guy to be the main promoter or liaison for this race for IndyCar next year? Then on the flip side, if that's not the case, then if why like if he can't provide the money for that, right, then why would you trust him to promote? And then on the other hand, if you're IndyCar, why did you put all your eggs in the basket with this guy who clearly, based on just what happened in Lights, yes, it's a disagreement, but if they're not paying Andretti Cape, then how is he paying IndyCar for whatever services, right? So there's just that's the first takeaway I had in all of this. At the time, Marshall Pruitt kind of downplayed, no big deal, disagreement between teams, but knowing how connected that name is to the Mexico City race, I thought, well, that's concerning. And then rumors have percolated since that. And so that's where we're at. And that's before anything that Nathan Brown has in his story.
The fact that the schedule for 2026 hasn't come out is squarely because of Mexico City.
Yes.
And my thought is, if Mexico's off, then Thermal could be back. Because what's your other option? Please don't say another road course race at IMS, please. But I think you made a great point, too, when we were texting earlier today, and it brought up maybe a rant from me, is you said, the owner's a billionaire. Fox injected over $120 million into the series, yet it's run like it's just the Athletics right now.
Yeah, the Athletics, the old Oakland A's, who now play in Sacramento, who allegedly are going to be playing in Las Vegas someday, but I have my doubts.
They're building the stadium as of right now.
I have my doubts.
We'll see if it's completed. Here's the thing is, and we've talked about this before in terms of IndyCar taking risks. Formula One taking risks, financing the entirety of the Vegas GP. We've seen NASCAR take risks at Chicago, which nobody ever thought they could pull that off.
No.
And now they're racing on a military base at Coronado next year. How are they going to do that? Well, you know what? NASCAR is going to figure it out. And if they have to throw and inject a huge amount of money into it, they're going to make sure they do it. Meanwhile, IndyCar is obviously not serious about spending a considerable amount of its own money on big events. The only reason Arlington is happening, in my opinion, is because they have multiple partners.
Yeah,
Cowboys,
the
Rangers,
Cowboys,
and
Texas Rangers.
and that sports conglomerate thingy.
Yeah.
That's the only reason that's happening. I mean, look at Nashville Street Race. The only reason that happened was because Big Machine was putting up a crap ton of money, right? Show me an event where IndyCar has ponied a lot of money to make happen, other than saving Long Beach and obviously the Indianapolis 500. This is an opportunity for IndyCar to say, all right, what's the cost? All right, screw it. We're going to pay it. We need to be in Mexico. It's long overdue. It shows our commitment to big events, blah, blah, blah. We're just going to pay it because we can pay it because Roger Penske is your freaking owner, you know? And to me, I think about this like the A's, like you're an A's fan. So let's say we're A's fans. Look, if you're not
Athletics, we can't call them the A's.
We can't?
I don't know. It's all so stupid, right? They're playing in a AAA ballpark.
Right. The thing is, if your team, and baseball is a prime example because there's no salary cap. So you can spend as much as you want or as little as you want, basically. I don't think there's a salary cap floor, even in Major League Baseball. Here's the thing, is the small market teams can just stay small market and not spend any money. Use the A's for an example. Their ownership, and the Pittsburgh Pirates is a great example too. They never spend money on players. They're never actively trying to get better. And that rubs off on your fans. You know what? If the team I follow isn't going to try to win, then what do I care about watching them? And it goes for IndyCar. Look, if you're a fan of IndyCar and IndyCar is not going to invest in making big events for you to watch, then why are you still watching? And I think when you look at the TV ratings and trying to raise that core audience, which we agree is around 700,000 people, that they need to raise to about 1 million. If they can steadily get 1 million, it changes the game for IndyCar. It's not one magic thing that's going to make that happen. It's going to be new and exciting cars. It's going to be this. It's going to be it's going to be big events, right? And big events happen by spending money. And that's what I'm coming down to with IndyCar. Look, there's some hurdles to get Mexico done. But come on, just pay the money, go to Mexico, and race there.
And these hurdles, and I'll get into the details with Nathan Brown before I go on my rant on this. So, again, I talked about Escato and the financials. Track rental fee between $1 million and $1.5 million. Pretty normal. No claim on any percentage of ticket sales. Pretty good deal, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yep.
I'd say that's a pretty good deal with the promoter there, which is OCESA. We'll call him OCESA, just to make it easy. So OCESA had to change, though, because Live Nation took an additional 24% stake in OCESA, purchasing it from Grupo CIE, which was the Mexico-based promoter that served as the parent company of OCESA. So now Live Nation went from 51% to 75%. Obviously, Live Nation, owned by Liberty Media, as we mentioned, who ironically has a minority share in Meyershank Racing, which is something to always keep in mind with the spats between, Liberty Media and IndyCar and all that. I always find it interesting that they're a minority owner of Meyershank Racing. That's been the case for a few years now. But basically, it went from this was a deal that was potentially going to be announced as soon as I think Brown said Laguna Seca, either at or after Laguna Seca, and then roll out the entire schedule leading into Portland is what Brown has in the story. But now that's been delayed because, of course, the terms of the deal have changed. It went from that $1 million to $1.5 million to potentially double that number and wanting 12% of ticket sales as opposed to no percentage of ticket sales. Obviously, that changes the terms of this race. That said, if you're IndyCar and you're this close to the finish line, get the deal done. Just get it done. And I guess my thing that I'm so frustrated with is Mark Miles will always go out and say, "Oh, we're close. We're very confident in this race happening." I mean, that was the company line. And in fact, that's what he said on Off Track. Mark Miles went on there and said it's going to be a big, I think, tentpole event talking about Mexico City. We're very confident we'll race in Mexico City in 2026. Okay. It's cool that you're doing interviews, but if it's not going to happen, then don't talk about it publicly. I guess I'm just so tired of the public talk. Like, great leaders get stuff done, right? And it just feels like with IndyCar, it's a lot of talk. And look, this isn't the first opportunity that they've been eyeing Mexico City recently. There was talk in 2016 that Mexico City was going to be added to the schedule in 2017. Mark Miles was obviously one of the people in charge. IndyCar was owned by the Holman and Company, the Holman George family at that time.
I'm sure he said at one point that they were very confident in racing in Mexico in 2017.
It was at least on the radar. I don't think it was they were very confident, but it was on the radar. It was discussed. It was rumored. They were going to potentially add a race in Mexico City. And this was pre-Pato Award in the series, mind you. So, like, you have the Holman George family who owned it at that time, pre-Pato Award, having a Mexican superstar in the series who's I would argue, the face of the series, right? He's the most popular driver. He's recognizable. He's the only driver that it feels like has a really healthy crowd around him every race weekend. Yes, there are other popular drivers, but he stands out. And so you have even better terms than you did back then. And this is still not done. And I understand there's still time. I just get it done, right?
Just do it.
Just get this done. Whatever it takes. I understand the terms aren't as good. A part of me wonders if everything that happened with the share change and Escato and the Indy Lights deal and stuff, like, I don't know if that's as big of a factor, if I'm just fishing for something. But either way, we're at the point where whether the terms are, the track rental fee more than doubled, and trying to get as much as 12% of ticket sales, still, you have to get this race done. NASCAR's not coming back next year. F1's there, but they don't have Sergio Perez as their driver currently. He's probably going to be with Cadillac F1. We'll see. Get it done, and I guess I'm just getting tired of this game and dance because they do this every year with a rumored international venue that would be this massive change, right? A massive positive change, and it just seems to go this way every single time. Just get it done. Let's talk. Get it done.
Allegedly, in 2002, the kart race at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez drew 400,000 people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that IndyCar draws 400,000 people.
But they can draw 100,000.
They can draw 100,000. And let's say the average price is $75 in American dollars, which is what, 5 billion pesos? Something like that.
I don't know the conversion.
That's $7.5 million, okay? So if you have to pay $2 million for the fee to rent the track or whatever, and then you have 12%, let's say, of that remaining money that has to go to this, that, or the other. Like, it's still multi-million dollars that you could potentially bank. Like, just do it. It's so frustrating. I keep coming back. IndyCar is that small market baseball team that promises that they're going to be a contender and they're going to do things. But when push comes to shove, when they're like, well, we're going to have to spend a lot of money to add this player or that player, or IndyCar this track or that track, they don't do it. They don't do it. And this is the greatest example. And much like the fans of the then former Oakland Athletics, Pittsburgh Pirates, teams like that in Major League Baseball that are consistent bottom dwellers, eventually you stop caring. If the team ownership or the series ownership isn't going to invest what it should in the series, then why should people care? And that's kind of where I'm at with this. There is no excuse I will accept if IndyCar tries to spin this and say we couldn't get Mexico to work because blah, blah, blah.
Rent the track, right? If you can't, just rent the track and pay the terms, make it happen. And look, you referenced that kart race in 2002. You got to remember you had Adrian Fernandez, right?
Right.
You had Michelle Jourdain Jr., right?
But I mean, Fernandez was the draw.
Yes, correct.
Much like Pato O'Ward is the draw.
Yes.
I would say minimum 100,000 people.
Yes.
At that race next year.
Yes.
Minimum. So what are we waiting for?
They're waiting for someone else to foot the bill, as always.
Why? You have a billionaire. Like this. Yeah, it's so frustrating. Yes. It is so frustrating.
I agree. Look, it's easy to say because it's not our money to spend, but at the same time, if you want this series to take off and you care about the series and not just making the Indy 500 the big event, which it already is, stop investing, excess money into the Indy 500 and start investing in the series. The Indy 500 is as best as it's been since the split.
Yeah,
that's without
Indy
a doubt.
500 is fine.
Now it's time to invest in the series.
I just, if IndyCar was trying to do a street race at Chicago, the first time they met with a councilman who said no, they would have just given up.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Like what NASCAR was able to pull up. And yes, did they have to grease the skids with a considerable amount of money? Absolutely, in Chicago. But you know what? They said, we're going to pull this off. And nobody thought they could. You're going to navigate the political red tape in Chicago and shut down major streets around Grant Park effectively.
This was more of a Hail Mary than F1 racing in Vegas.
Oh, totally.
Which seemed like it wasn't going to work out.
You could probably go back 4 years ago.
The only thing harder would be race a New York City street race.
Yes. You could go back 4 years ago with this podcast and hear us say there's absolutely no way Chicago happens because it's just it's impossible. But credit to NASCAR. They say, we don't care what it takes, how much money it takes. And I can guarantee you they didn't make a cent in Chicago.
No, they lost. They lost their shirt and their pants.
But you know what? It was a draw. It was eye-opening. People tuned in, and it raised the profile of the entire series, much like Formula One has done by racing in Vegas. Formula One is not making a single dime in Vegas. It's costing it millions of dollars every year, but it has raised the profile of Formula One. IndyCar can raise its profile by spending and potentially losing money by racing in Mexico City. But it would collectively raise the profile of the series, but it refuses to do it.
For the guy who's owned Team Penske for over 50 years and how much money they would spend on testing and development. I mean, look, Penske developed and ran their own chassis for decades up until it really became a disaster late 90s and then eventually switched over to the Lolas and the Reynards of the like at the time. And yet you're going to tell me you can't spend, $2-3 million to make this race happen. It's frustrating.
It is just absolutely ridiculous, and it just makes it hard for existing IndyCar fans to stay IndyCar fans, and it prevents IndyCar from growing and adding new fans.
Moving on, as we wrap things up, other news and notes items. Théo Pourchaire is joining Peugeot full-time for the 2026 WEC season, so congrats to him. Obviously, IndyCar not in the cards. Track progress for the Grand Prix of Arlington. They're doing some paving work already to get things going for that. Milwaukee Mile, if you saw pictures, videos of the flooding around Milwaukee, unbelievable. I mean, they got nearly 10 inches at the mile. They had to end the state fair a day early, as that happened last weekend, but track is good to go despite all the storm water, but IndyCar race coming up should be good to go for that. Elsewhere, Scott McLaughlin is joining Johor Motorsports Racing for the Suzuka 1,000 kilometer and the Intercontinental GTC series. So sports car drive, so that's pretty cool. PepsiCo, I mentioned Arlington Paving. PepsiCo will be an official partner of the inaugural race weekend. Pepsi and Frito-Lay, which they're merged, products will be available throughout the venue. They'll have pit stop refreshment stations as well.
Exciting.
IndyCar got a shout out on FS1's First Things First, talking about Alex Palou and his three-peat, which we didn't dive into Palou's three-peat as much, but Some notable things. Jake Query pointing this out. He joins Ted Horn, 1946 to 1948, and Dario Franchitti, 2009 to 2011. Only drivers with 3 consecutive IndyCar season titles. Of course, Horn, that was AAA at the time, but that record recognized by IndyCar now as the official record. Tom Brady, an IndyCar fan.
Did he tweet out congrats?
No, it was mentioned during the one of the broadcasts over the weekend.
Gotcha.
Tom Brady.
So we got Tom Brady and Brad Pitt this year.
And Alex Rodriguez.
There you go.
So that's good. We didn't talk about this, but the drone shots were amazing.
Very much
at Portland. Really good stuff by Fox.
I liked the new-ish graphics for qualifying. Of course, they had data issues because every race we have to have data issues at some point. But I liked the more greenish, if guys were obviously on better laps, but even in the top 6, highlighting those guys. So I liked the more colorful. It wasn't as colorful as the old school Christmas tree, but they're getting there with Fox.
It'll basically be the same thing once they get there.
Eventually.
Nick Yeoman with this stat. Chip Ganassi Racing has tied Team Penske with 17 championships in American open wheel racing. So you want to name all of them from Ganassi?
I got to name them all?
Yeah. So the drivers.
So Scott Dixon.
Yeah. How many does he have?
6.
Yep.
Dario has 4.
3.
3.
Because one was with Andretti.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Obviously 4 with Palou.
So where are we at? 6,
We're
10,
at
14?
13.
13. Okay.
Kart era.
Juan Pablo Montoya?
Yep. He's got 1.
He's only got 1?
Only 1, yeah.
Dang. Okay.
Guy who basically invented the donut in racing.
Oh, I was thinking the giant donut during the warm-up.
Yeah. No, not the Voodoo Donuts IndyCar on Fox donut.
What's the story of the Voodoo donut?
They're based out of Portland.
So that's a thing. You can buy giant donuts like that.
I don't know about that, but they have unique flavors. There are Voodoo donuts. Like there's one in Austin, Texas. There's one in Portland. It's a donut shop that kind of gained notoriety. My parents were in Portland several years ago.
They bring you home?
They brought me back. Yeah,
very nice.
It was like a maple bacon one. It was good.
It was that big?
No, it was not that big.
Oh, okay.
No, that was just an oversized donut.
Okay, got you. Okay, back to the thing.
Yeah. So donuts, but in racing.
Alex Zanardi?
Yes, he got 2.
He got 2.
Missing one other driver. 1996 kart season.
Oh, Jimmy Vasser.
Yes, there you go. Those are the drivers who won for Ganassi.
Did Michael? No, Michael Andretti didn't.
He did race for them, but did not win his championship. His car
Okay.
title was with Newman Haas in 91. Tell me where you've heard this before. ESPN and Fox launching a $39.99 per month bundle coming in October. Fox One, which was previously announced. It's almost like the Fubo thing that died is now back as just a bundle.
Well, it's pretty crazy. For $40, you can get those 2. For a little bit more, you can get cable television.
Yeah.
With a lot of channels.
Yes.
Like what is our YouTube TV, like 60? 60,
no,
70?
it's like 75
So we all
or 85.
But it's
pay
like
20-ish a month. Yeah.
Why would you pay half of that for 2 channels? Or
I agree.
Like, what are you doing?
Like, just get cable or a streaming, whether it's Hulu Live TV, which Hulu's going away next year. It's getting absorbed by Disney Plus.
But the Hulu Live is staying separate.
Yes.
From what I've heard.
Correct.
Yeah. I guess if you just watch sports, that's all you watch. You're not married, so you don't have to figure out, you don't have to have all the, dating shows and all that stuff and the home decor shows. I guess it makes sense, but I just get regular cable.
YouTube TV plus Peacock, and I feel like you're good. Or Hulu Live TV or Fubo TV plus Peacock. Like I feel like that's all you need.
Yeah, in terms of your sports needs.
But that's just me because I'm not watching stuff on
watching
HBO Max.
CBS?
I guess Amazon Prime for football games. I guess you would need that for NFL.
Well, you need Peacock because you watch the Big Ten.
Yes.
Basketball.
Big Ten football and basketball, yes. Basketball maybe more particularly because the good Big Ten games are already on TV. A few things to get to before we wrap up. A House panel diving into sports broadcasting markets blackout exemptions. So something to keep in mind on that. Cusick Motorsports, new chapter, same Cusick Motorsports, August 27th. We will actually interview Don Cusick on August 28th. So stay tuned for that special episode as they make a team announcement.
We have no idea what that is?
No idea. I would think it's some sort of expansion in IndyCar or Indy Lights. That's my guess.
3-car IndyCar team for next year.
I don't think so.
Okay.
And then we have the Racer.com mailbag and this week's highlights. Obviously upset about the Will Power situation. That was kind of one of the first things on the docket.
Marshall kind of went on his own rant about that.
Elsewhere, other nuggets in the mailbag. Let's see, what else did we have for this week, Justin?
I don't know. I sent you the list. I'm going to have to recap, find it. What did we have in the mailbag this week in terms of news?
That was the biggest thing. After that, it wasn't a lot.
I think one of the things was Marshall said he's worried about Milwaukee and Nashville if they have less people than last year. Just because, you have that 1 year and then you hope you can grow from that 1 year. I think there's some concern from Marshall that if last year was the apex, neither event is long for the schedule, which
that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. I get that.
The other thing is, don't be surprised if Fox dabbles into some sort of playoff thing.
Which I know is a big button issue with everybody.
Am I the only person who thinks that they won't do that?
Well, the point is what gets... I don't know if there's tangible evidence, and even Marshall Pruitt, I think, said this, that is there tangible evidence that adding a playoff system in NASCAR increased viewership?
No.
I don't think so either. But if there's certain powers to be, and with Fox now with a seat at the table, if Fox thinks, hey, we can get more people to tune in with a playoff system late in the season, maybe it's somehow tied into... let me ask you this. What if there was a 4-race playoff and all 4 races, or let's say the majority of the 4 races, were primetime Sunday night after NFL? Would you say, yeah, let's do a playoff? Even despite going against the highest rated show, in Sunday Night Football.
But if you can pull $1 million plus on those time slots, I think you have to be happy.
What if the caveat is to have that, you need to have a playoff system? If Fox
then you
says,
say yes.
Yes, I would think so too. So maybe there's something there where Fox, hey, let's work together. Let's race deeper into the fall. Let's put these races on Sunday night, whatever, prime time, and we'll have a playoff. Maybe even if it's a 3-race playoff, I don't know. And you have a road course, a street course, and an oval as your quote-unquote playoff. I don't like it, but in the entertainment business where we're trying to get more eyes on IndyCar, if there's an argument to be had that more eyes will tune in a playoff format, of which you and I aren't convinced, but let's say certain people are convinced of that, then try something. And Marshall Pruitt said, for a fan base that wants to actively grow the sport, it's a fan base that's really against any type of change, serious change. And you can't have both. So if it's something that Fox and IndyCar want to try, even for 1 year to see how it went, should we be against it? I don't think so. That said, if it happens, we'll complain about it right here on New Track Record
that
Podcast.
We will. All right. That wraps up a lengthy news and notes, really highlighted by our rants on Mexico City.
I think they were well warranted.
Yes, I agree. Tweets of the week time. We have several to get to, and we start in NASCAR. Connor Zilisch, I hope that's how you say it, or Zilisch, young hotshot driver, very talented. He is with Trackhouse in Xfinity. I believe he's moving up to Cup next year, right, with the team in the same name. But he won the road course race at Watkins Glen in Xfinity over the weekend. But he fell and actually was hospitalized jumping out of his car to celebrate. It went from being funny to very scary.
Yeah, he's laid there.
And a couple of funny tweets out of this. He had posted, the bracelet I got in the hospital this morning because of anesthesia. Can't make this stuff up. And it said fall risk, which, I mean, if you've been in a hospital, been in those situations, they do that for people.
Yeah.
It was really funny that my son, who was just a few months old at the time, had a surgery last fall. He had to stay overnight because of his age, but it wasn't a super serious procedure. But either way, he had the fall risk thing, which was funny because A, he doesn't crawl or walk, and B, he was like 4 months old. So, but yes. And then also...
Are you surprised, real quick about Zillage, are you surprised that doesn't happen more often?
I am.
Not that they get caught on something, but like...
But, I mean, the netting right there, just you lose your footing.
Or even like IndyCar drivers, like you're sitting in a seat for 3 hours, maybe your legs are a little wobbly.
I feel like your legs would be wobbly.
Right. And they just, immediately stand on top. Now they're in better physical shape than we are. But I just saying, I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often.
And then Connor's dad posted, silver lining, pooping himself is no longer his most embarrassing moment.
Yeah, falling off his
race car after winning. Some funny complaints about Live Golf. James Hinchcliffe, Hitchtown, said, I want it noted that I've never been a fan of golf. And Steve Shunk posted, maybe Fox owns 34% of Live Golf. And then finally, after Townsend Bell suggested that Scott McLaughlin was going to go to NASCAR for Team Penske next year.
Just a wild random take on the race broadcast.
Yeah. Scott McLaughlin tweeted, crazy idea, but hear me out. We send Townsend Bell to the Big Ten Network to do sideline reporting and promote Jack Harvey to the booth. I thought that was outstanding.
Yeah, that came out of left field. He said, I was just thinking in the shower. Well, that's what you get for thinking in the shower.
Yeah. It's going nowhere good. All right, with that, time for our random split error driver of the week.
We've mentioned this driver multiple times as we've made gone through the roster of random split error drivers of the week. We've never really profiled him, and that's Arndt Meyer.
Hey,
from Hanover, Germany. A member of Project Indy in 1997 and Davis Racing in 1998, Arndt Meyer raced 2 full seasons in kart. First 2 seasons, 29 starts for 2 teams. He had 1 top 10 over those 29 races. That was a 10th at Road America in 1998. He raced in 1996 in the German Formula 3 Championship and then participated in the Kart World Series. He led for 2 laps on his Champ Car debut in Australia, largely due to pit sequences. And was a struggle for poor Arndt Meyer. For most of his career in Champ Car, he drove the only Lola chassis in the field at a time when Lola was struggling to match the pace of the dominant Reynard chassis. So this is what happens when people are like, well, we need chassis competition. We need tire competition.
Like they'll weed each other out.
If one is good, is nobody's going to race the other. And that's what it was in early kart when nobody wanted a Lola chassis.
And then everyone wanted a Lola.
And then Lola, yeah, right?
Nobody wanted a March. Then everyone wanted a March.
It goes back and forth. I get it. But for season by season, it can be terrible. And unless these companies are really, really invested, they're just going to bail. I mean,
look, if IndyCar was at the NASCAR level in terms of TV ratings and money, this would be sustainable, but because it's not, it doesn't work. And look, we all wish it would be like it was 1990. Look, karts / IndyCar from 1985 to 1995 was not only the most popular racing series in the U.S., you could argue, especially 91, 92, 93, 94, it was rivaling Formula One.
It had stupid money being invested by companies in it that wanted to be in it.
Yes.
Like Formula One now, right? Everybody wants to be in it. And Lola wanted to be in it. And they were terrible. But Arndt Meyer was stuck with the only Lola chassis in the field for the better part of 2 years. After 1998, he returned to Europe. He raced in F3000 and touring cars. In 2004, he drove a BMW 318i. I think I saw you pull up in one of those here to the library. He won the BF Goodrich Long Distance Championship in 2004. And that's it for Arndt Meyer of Hanover, Germany, this week's Random Split Era Driver of the Week.
Driver I do not remember.
Me neither.
That's good. All right, we'll be back next week. Latest and greatest in IndyCar news. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a schedule going into Milwaukee. I doubt it, but maybe we will. We'll
1,000 apologies to IndyCar if Mexico's on the schedule this time next week.
If you get it done, we'll say, hey, mea culpa. You got it done. For Justin Kinney, I'm Caleb Hatch. Thanks for joining us on another edition of New Track Record Podcast.